Hi everybody, and welcome to another WeatherCast USA Quickcast. On this Quickcast, we're going to break down the threat of southern snow, as well as look at the developing nor'easter that's going to bring strong winds and potentially some snow up the east coast into especially New England this weekend. So let's get into it. Taking a look here, this is the latest winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings in effect for the continental U.S. You can see there are some winter weather advisories, especially around the Great Lakes, or some downstream lake effect snow. In the next couple days, there's going to be some lake effect snow that's accumulating, especially on the south side of Lake Michigan, as well as the south shore of Lake Superior, a few bands of snow in the upper peninsula of Michigan, and then also downwind of Lake Ontario. One notable exception, Lake Erie, we don't have any winter storm advisories. That's because Lake Erie is almost completely frozen. The last I saw was about 98% frozen. So that's really cutting down the possibility of lake effect snow, essentially shutting it off across the areas downwind of Lake Erie. But yes, some of the other lakes, the deeper lakes, do have open water still, and that is going to cause some lake effect snow over the next couple days. So I do want to note that. There's also a boundary that's laying across the upper Midwest and northern plains between some really cold air, Arctic air spilling in over the upper Midwest, and then a little bit more moderated air over the Intermountain West. That's leading to some lift along that boundary, as well as around a high pressure located in the center U.S. There's a bit of a upslope flow. That's going to provide some snow across the Intermountain West and the high plains. You can see there's some winter weather advisories around Rapid City, South Dakota. But we do have another Arctic surge of air that's filtering in over the eastern and central U.S. That's going to lead to another round of really extreme cold temperatures across much of the eastern two-thirds of the country. There's extreme cold advisories and warnings all the way down to the Gulf Coast and Florida Peninsula for the next couple days. A couple disturbances that are going to be interacting with that cold air. That's creating, you can see here, these winter weather advisories, winter storm watches, and some winter storm warnings now in effect across the southeast, the mid-Atlantic, and the extreme southern parts of New England. So looking in a little bit closer, we do have some winter storm watches in effect for the Cape of Massachusetts, Cape Cod, and then the islands there south of the mainland, Nantucket, and then winter storm watches in effect across southern parts of Virginia, the Delmarva, basically the Virginia and Maryland parts of the Delmarva Peninsula right now. Much of North Carolina under winter storm watches, and it looks like pretty much all of South Carolina. They have this afternoon backed some of those winter storm watches in effect into the I-75 corridor in Georgia, so Macon up through the Atlanta metro and just south and east of Chattanooga, really kind of running along the I-75 corridor north of Atlanta. Those areas in northeast Georgia also under winter storm watches. Wouldn't be surprised if those get converted over. It's just probably a matter of time. And keep in mind that winter storm watches and warnings, the criteria is different across different parts of the U.S. For a severe thunderstorm, the standard is set across the board. So whether you go from one part of the country to the other, there's specific criteria that set those standards, especially for severe thunderstorms. The winter storm warnings, they are different. So winter storm warnings in Minnesota are going to be a lot different than in Biloxi or Mobile. We do have winter storm warnings in effect already in this pink color. Most of those across the Appalachians, the Smoky Mountains, the higher terrain of the Carolinas, of western North Carolina, southwest Virginia, and then into eastern Tennessee. Areas like Asheville, Knoxville, already under winter storm warnings. And then we have winter weather advisories in effect for parts of eastern Kentucky and Tennessee, areas west of Knoxville in Tennessee, and then up towards Pikeville in Kentucky. That also includes parts of West Virginia, south of Charleston, West Virginia, and looks like a couple of the very southern counties also in West Virginia under winter storm warnings. I don't know the one offhand. The other one is McDowell County in West Virginia. So again, wouldn't be surprised if more of this gets converted into the pink colors in the next couple days or in the next 12 to 24 hours as we get a little closer to the expected arrival of snow. The areas that have winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings in effect currently are the areas that are going to see snow first. All right, here's a look at the 3-day NDFD forecast for snow totals. You can see how it lines up pretty good with the winter weather advisories and the winter storm watches and everything that we just detailed. I took those off this map just to make it a little simpler looking map. You can see in the very upper corner of your screen some of that snowfall from the areas around the Great Lakes, especially downwind of Lake Michigan. Northern Indiana looks to be maybe the winner as well as areas in the Tug Hill Plateau east of Lake Ontario. Those are probably the two winners for lake effect snow. Areas like Gary, Indiana, and areas maybe just around St. Joseph, Michigan, down into Michigan City. Those areas could get some, pretty significant snow, 8 inches plus locally. It depends exactly where the band sets up too. The snow down here, we can really see developing the next couple days across first areas in the Appalachians, eastern Kentucky, and eastern Tennessee. I wouldn't be surprised if areas like Clarksville, Tennessee, Nashville see some type of precip. You may get some wintry precip even out into that area, but likely not accumulating that much. You can see this model does paint some picture of some light snow, very light snow, maybe a dusting or an inch across portions of Kentucky. But it's really not till the system gets really starting to develop and get into the Appalachians and higher terrain in eastern Kentucky and Tennessee, and then western parts of the Carolinas. That's where we really get into some of that more significant snow, and that's why there's winter storm warnings in effect. Those higher elevations could see close to a foot of snow in spots, but generally about 6 to 10 inches of snow. And on this representation, the purple color you can kind of see in here, this is about 4 to 6 inches of snow. The brighter pink, that is in that 7 to 12 inches of snow kind of range, 8 to 12 inches. And then once we get into a foot plus, those are the green colors. You can see there are some showing up along the eastern parts of North Carolina. That's where there are some chances we could get over a foot of snow in the eastern parts of the coastal areas of North Carolina. A little bit more rare of a situation to get significant snow out on that part of North Carolina. A lot of times, if storm systems track too far to the west and parallel the east coast in a path like this, a lot of times that puts them in the warm sector and they're getting rain along the Outer Banks and eastern North Carolina while snow falls back in the Piedmont. This storm system looks to develop a little bit further out. So that's going to bring, again, also that colder air coming down from Canada and funneling also like last week down in front of the Appalachians. That's going to bring some of that cool air really far south. As the low pressure really deepens, that draws more of that cold air and the counterclockwise flow around this, funnels more cold air down against the Appalachians and into the southeast, and just reinforces a very impactful snow event for areas that don't see a lot of impactful snow events. You can see here, very similar to our winter weather watches that we just covered, the significant, or I should say accumulating snow, likely in northeast Georgia, really along and especially east of I-75. That puts Atlanta, at least according to this run and this forecast, into that, maybe a couple inches, grassy surfaces, some slick spots on the road, but out of some of the more significant accumulations. That would be possible towards maybe Augusta, where you might see 3 or 4 inches, as well as areas like Athens, and then certainly into the Carolinas. That's where you get some really significant accumulating snow across, especially North Carolina. And as I mentioned, somewhere I think on the eastern part of North Carolina, likely just inland from the Outer Banks. Some of the warm air I think is going to affect some of the totals immediately on the Outer Banks, but just inland from there, I think we are going to find a winter that gets over a foot of snow, possibly up in that 14 to 16 kind of inches. Depending on the track, it could get into Virginia Beach. Right now, this NDFD is not showing the highest snowfall totals across Virginia Beach, but just small shifts in the development of the low pressure could dictate whether Virginia Beach sees a significant accumulation or just completely gets dumped on. Okay, so this is a little zoomed in look at the Northeast. This is where the forecast is probably the trickiest. Pretty much the models are in really good agreement that North Carolina and a lot of South Carolina is going to see snow. The models differ a little bit as we get into how much snow the Northeast gets. Pretty much along and east of I-95, you're going to see some sort of precip in the wintry form, some sort of snow. The question is, depending on how that low tracks, how much snow do you get? It could be, again, around a dusting in areas south, especially south of Washington, D.C., and also south and east of Philadelphia. New York City, maybe just some light snow to a dusting. Potentially a little more out towards the eastern areas of Long Island. And then the southeast area of New England, that's where I think we're going to see the more significant snowfall totals. with areas around Nantucket could get 4 to 6 inches of snow. And some models put that band of heavier snow across southern Massachusetts. We'll have to see about that. We could get 2 to 4 inches on the lower end, but we could be talking about a more refined forecast in the next 24 hours that puts, 8 to 12 inches across this area. If you do have plans, especially south of Boston, especially later in the weekend, Saturday, late Saturday into Sunday, that's where we really got to watch for snow up in this area. That would be areas like Plymouth, Yarmouth, Nantucket, and even south of Providence in Rhode Island, coastal Rhode Island, getting in on some of that significant accumulating snowfall. Wouldn't be surprised, this model doesn't show it. I think there could be a chance of some accumulating snowfall depending on how close that low tracks to the East Coast. There could be some accumulating snowfall across down east Maine as well. And that would be later Sunday and into Monday. The Canadian Maritimes are going to get hammered with potentially hurricane-forced winds gusting 75 mile an hour plus, and then heavy snow. So if you do have plans to travel like Halifax, Moncton, out on the Canadian Maritimes, this area is going to get some significant weather. And even areas that don't get a lot of snow in the Northeast, there are going to be winds as this low tracks north and east, paralleling the East Coast. This low is going to wrap around onshore flow, so also coastal erosion, and with a pressure gradient, some pretty heavy winds, and also deep low pressure. Some of the models have this getting down into that hurricane strength for low pressure. Not a hurricane. You want to make that clear. Don't, you might see some clickbait even on social media from other accounts. It's not a hurricane. But looking at the pressure differences, this could be, in the 970s millibar kind of range. Definitely a deep low pressure system. And yeah, we still have question marks where it tracks. If it tracks a little further to the east, you'll get less impacts. If it tracks a little further to the west, that pushes some of that heavier snow back closer and along the I-95 corridor. So there still is a chance at seeing some accumulating snowfall in some of the higher populated areas along the East Coast. So this is another way to look at it. These are the probabilities of 4+ inches of snow. You can see that target really into the Carolinas. This is a day 2 probability. So that includes those southern Appalachians and then spilling out into the Carolinas. And then as we get later into that range, and you can see how that continues into the day 3 across eastern parts of the Carolinas, getting in on those highest probabilities of 4+ inches of snow. That includes some places we don't see and talk about winter weather that much. Myrtle Beach, Wilmington, Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Ocean City, Maryland, right on the edge of that higher probability of getting 4+ inches of snow. So yeah, some interesting cities there. And then right now you can see how this tracks for the higher probabilities, really keeping that east of I-95. We'll have to kind of keep an eye on the trends and see if that moves back towards the west a little bit. Let's take a look at pivotal weather and dive into the models a little bit behind the storm system. So this is a look at the 500 millibar height, the jet stream level vorticity. And this helps show some of those atmospheric features that are going to interact. We can see here on Thursday, late Thursday, we do have a little bit of a weak low pressure at the surface. That's why it's not showing here on the 500 millibar. There is a little weakness in here moving through the southern plains into the lower Mississippi Valley. That's going to bring a little bit of light precip and maybe even some light snow to areas of especially eastern Kansas, Missouri. And then that's also helping, I think, to show on that one model that we looked at, some light snow may spread into the Ohio Valley. Areas in kind of central Kentucky may get snow as this system kind of works its way south and east, still remaining a pretty weak system. As that does dive south and east, it tends to weaken, but it's going to kind of be a little bit of the spark that helps ignite a deeper surface low off the southeast coast. Along with that, we see this upper level disturbance coming down, diving across this Great Lakes and into the southeast. And this is what's going to really ramp up the snowfall totals and the snow event as it gets into the southeast. As this gets into the Tennessee Valley and the southern Appalachians, it's going to help really promote lift across those southern Appalachians and the Smokies and into southeast Virginia, those areas that are under those winter storm warnings that we looked at a couple minutes ago. Some moderate to heavy snowfall across those areas. And then as this swings further into the southeast, we can start to see the hints of a deepening low pressure at the surface. And that's going to continue to ride up and along this trough across the east coast. So yeah, there's that little kind of intro disturbance. It's going to get some light snow started across parts of the southern Appalachians. And then, yeah, here's that really big blast of mid to upper level disturbance and energy that really kicks off the cyclogenesis off the Carolina coastline. This is also drawing down some really cold air with it. And then as we talked about looking at the snowfall forecast, this upper level disturbance as well as the surface low helping to wrap moisture back into the coastal areas in the northeast, but also the overall broad counterclockwise flow helping to draw this cold air down into parts of the southeast, into the mid-Atlantic, and keeping this an all-snow event from the Carolinas northward. So here's the Euromodel. I want to take a look out. Just a note, there are going to be some areas of disturbed weather, especially in the Pacific Northwest, some moderate to heavy coastal rain, and then also some snow in the Cascades. It does look like it's going to be a little bit on the warmer side, so the Cascade snow elevation pretty high right now. Looks like a little more chance into some of those coastal ranges of British Columbia. But as we go into Friday, you can kind of see a little hints of this little weak disturbance, this low pressure, little wrinkle in the jet stream right there. That kicks off some of those initial snow showers and light snow as we get into late Friday and Saturday. And then here comes this upper level disturbance diving through the mid-Mississippi Valley from the upper Midwest and into the southern plains. So yeah, here comes that disturbance diving southward. And then as that gets into the southeast, it helps promote that extra lift as well as some orographic lift. And that's where we also have this deepening surface low off the coast of the Carolinas. That's going to be funneling some more moisture into this area of higher lift and really get that snow to break out across the Carolinas on Saturday. And then we see that really gets ramped up as that upper level energy aligns more with that developing coastal low. This is the Euromodel, again, down into the low 970s for millibars. The tightening lines here that you see, those are the wind gradient. And the tighter that gradient, the stronger the winds. So this is really indicating some really strong winds, really all along the East Coast, but especially those coastal areas. Could get some 40 to 60 mile an hour gusts. And even interior across the Carolinas, we could get some 40, 50, even 55 mile an hour gusts, potentially near blizzard conditions in some locations. At the very least, it's going to be near blizzard conditions. That does mean whiteout conditions potentially, really heavy snowfall, wind-driven snowfall, so very low visibility, wind-driven snow blowing onto the roads, as well as accumulating snowfall. It's just going to be a really, if you don't have to travel this weekend across the Carolinas, I would advise doing that. And then you'll see here, the Euro keeps this mostly offshore right now, but you can see some of that heavier snow across the Cape. And let's see, yeah, the Euromodel does get some of that heavier snow. It starts to kind of turn this low more towards the Canadian Maritimes and put some accumulating snow across parts of eastern Maine and northeast Maine. That's why I do think there is a chance there of at least a few inches of snow into early Monday. Still seeing some snow showers, but also really strong winds. Anywhere really along the East Coast from the Carolinas into New England needs to really pay attention with the onshore flow of this system, especially areas like Virginia Beach, the Delmarva, New Jersey is going to have a pretty good onshore flow, as well as like Long Island and those areas. And then also, just like we mentioned, the Cape and New England. And then that starts to pull away by, midday and late Monday with just really cold and windy conditions down across much of the East Coast with that Arctic air all the way down towards the Gulf Coast. I do want to mention also, as this system is developing, with some moisture and that really cold pocket of air diving southward, there is a chance to see some snow in Florida later on Saturday. Maybe some flurries along the Florida Panhandle, and areas like Mobile, Baldwin County could get a flake or two, not accumulating snow. And then as that kind of works its way, as the system deepens, there's a chance early Sunday, late Saturday, that there could be a couple Gulf-enhanced snow showers across like the Tampa Bay area and Southwest Florida. You can see on this model, it doesn't show a ton, but there's just some of this little purple colors and blue speckled colors do indicate there's a chance of some freezing precip. It's not, again, going to be any accumulating snowfall, but we could see a flake or two across against parts of the Florida Panhandle, South Alabama, and then I would put even a little bit of a higher chance than this model into the Tampa Bay metro. So that's a quick look at the developing snowstorm and winter storm that's going to affect the Carolinas with some pretty heavy snow, potentially up to a foot of snow or even a little higher in some of the spots of eastern North Carolina, and then heavy snow in the Appalachians and the Smokies, and also potentially some blizzard conditions or at least near blizzard conditions in the Carolinas. And then looking at how that path of the low is really critical to determine how much snow the East Coast gets, especially the Northeast and New England. Small changes in the forecast track will dictate potentially some larger changes in the amount of snow that you will see. Stay safe. Make sure you follow your local National Weather Service office. They're all on social media as well, so you can search your local National Weather Service office and follow their social media links because they're going to be posting updates to not just the snowfall totals, but travel conditions and certainly warning about blizzard conditions and things like that. Very important to follow your local National Weather Service office. We'll also be here on YouTube and also our other social media channels. It'll rotate above me there, but definitely follow us on Facebook and Twitter. There it is right there at WXCastUSA. Also like and subscribe here on YouTube for more weather quickcasts, forecast videos, breakdowns. We do a daily weather post, usually mid-morning for those that want a little bit of a written post. And then certainly severe weather and extreme weather live streaming